Moving on now to the second portion of today's program. So a lot of y'all I know were with us on June 6th for the Take a Knee rally. Marquis Hunt was the organizer of that rally, and Indivisible was proud to support him and some other community leaders at the Hoover United Methodist Church and other folks to put on a rally for justice. And it was really kind of a moving event, and now we welcome him back to talk with us a little bit, reflect on the past few weeks on what we've been doing and what we need to continue doing differently. And then after Marquis's reflection, stay on, because Kelly is going to then kind of lead us in a conversation about what our specific experiences have been. So we're looking forward to kind of hearing what y'all have to say. So, all right, Marquis, are you there? That's what you got to make sure to unmute, Marquis. I saw him earlier. Oh, there he is. Okay, got it. Did you? Now you got to unmute yourself, Marquis. There you go.
Yeah, there it goes. I tried earlier. So anyway, I'm here. Thank you, Lori. It's a beautiful moment in this world. Thank you for having me on. Hello, all of the Indivisible community. I haven't met all of you, but I'm eternally grateful for the work that you've done in the Take a Knee rally. The Take a Knee rally would not have happened had Indivisible not shown up. Lori, you are well, in our community, we say you are a beast, because that means you are beasting. You are like top of the class. You know how to do your thing, and you know how to do this thing. So thank you so much, Indivisible. You are lucky to have Lori Evans with you. I feel like in many respects, we are in a tale of two Americas. Charles Dickens, the Tale of Two Cities, he said it was the age of wisdom. It was also the age of foolishness. It was the age of belief. It's also the age of incredulity. And I feel like this is where we are, especially in terms of building a community, a culture of people that can support all of us, and in particular, the anti-racist work. We are in two different Americas. COVID-19, we are in two different Americas. And so the Take a Knee rally was designed specifically to speak to people who are identifying as white people, mostly baby boomers and Gen Xers, people who have resource, land, property, because this was precipitated by the George Floyd event, also in part by the Amy Cooper event in Central Park in New York. But what happened, and what our approach was conciliatory. We wanted to go to the police station to talk to them a little bit, in part about how they could reframe their interactions with the Black community, the Black and Brown community. Since that time, I've been working with several organizations. One is LROC, which is Greater Little Rock Organizing Committee. And then also another group of faith-based leaders to the Clinton Foundation that originally convened to talk about the opioid crisis, but they have morphed into a conversation about anti-racism and police brutality. So this is where I've been involved over the last few weeks, and largely thrusted into the mainstream because of that Take a Knee rally. I would encourage you, if you haven't looked at the video by Good Faith Media, to go and look at the video if you want to have something that you can share with your friends. But where we are, I've just finished 7 episodes on Facebook through Zoom, a series called The Spirituality of Whiteness, where we talk about how whiteness lives in plain sight. Whiteness, not white people, but the culture and the hegemony of what whiteness is. Black people are usually identified by the pigmentation, and whiteness is usually identified by public policy. So this is one of the reasons I appreciate what Indivisibility is doing, because voting is critical, it's essential. And one of the biggest ways we can demonstrate anti-racism and a way to ameliorate or fix anti-Blackness is to go to the polls and vote, or in this case, get your voter ballot, get it mailed to you. Don't let anything stand in the way of voting. Right now, the powers that be are definitely concerned that people can't get to the polls. I suspect, as was mentioned earlier, that the COVID-19 crisis is going to be used to basically close and shut down some polls. There are a lot of people who are not interested if you have a progressive bent or progressive lean, or if you are an ally, a white ally for people, an anti-racist, for anti-racist activity. There are a lot of people who hold power who are not interested in you voting. So it's critically important that you pay attention and that you don't let anything deter you. What we've been doing, because there have been a lot of people who have been asking questions and trying to figure out how they can get involved. I'd encourage you to look up this young lady, Dr. Carol Ann Vaughn Cross. Carol Ann, that's 4 names, Carol Ann Vaughn Cross. She was our last guest on the spirituality of whiteness. She's the associate professor of geography and sociology at Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama. If you can go to my Facebook page and look at that last video, you will be enormously informed in terms of how the culture and even our religious culture is protecting racist activity and racist policy, even anti-women policy in this culture, in our country. These are things you can do. If you are parents, don't hesitate to educate your children outside of school. There's educational resources that our current educational system does not give us. This is the worst of time, it's the best of times. We have a president who I think is continuously inflaming anti-science. He's inflaming racist behavior. And what we can do with this, there are some benefits to it. For instance, take the Juneteenth celebration. There are a lot of people now, white America knows a lot about Juneteenth and a lot of the anti-Black not loitering. I'm thinking about the terrorism that happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, the massacre, the Greenwood massacre, Black Wall Street. There are a lot of people that are learning a lot more information now about the history of America, from the Trail of Tears to the Greenwood massacre. Tell your children, talk to your children. This movement will not get stronger until parents, Gen Xers, baby boomers, grandparents become very serious about talking to your white children or people who identify as white about the real history of this country. This is probably the most pivotal work we can do in our culture, is talk to our children, not passively talk to them and not safely talk to them. We can't talk to them in ways that protect our culture or even protect our resources, because we're at a stage right now where in order to remain sane or to even demonstrate sanity, we have to talk about this. And this is a great moment. It's a difficult moment in America because a lot of people are sick and we are almost afraid of each other. We're afraid to touch each other. We're afraid to say hi to each other. But it's a moment because we get to create again. We get to rebuild America. We get to look at America honestly, smack dab in the face and say, okay, I see who we are. I see what we've become, but we can do this much better. We are a tale of two countries. It's up to us to determine which country we want to see dominate, not dominate, I don't like the word dominate, which country we want to see lead. Because right now we're being dominated. We need people to step up and lead. And I believe this conglomerate of people, you, us, I think we are duly qualified to change the trajectory of how America experiences love, how we experience education, how we experience wealth, how we experience good health. We can do this. So talk to your children, read, educate, find every available resource you can. Don't just trust public school. Don't trust, I'm gonna say this is gonna be hard. Don't even trust your churches as much anymore because they've not told us a lot of things we need to know. I'm not telling you don't trust God. I'm not in that fight with you. I'm telling you, do your homework. Trust, but verify. Always verify. It's a good thing. And as long as we keep doing this, we're gonna be better. I'm a Black man. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because of these conversations. I'm a Black man. I'm gonna keep the work happening. I have 2 Black sons. I'm afraid for their lives in many moments. They don't talk like I talk, and they are young and they're boisterous and sometimes they're rude. But you know, in America, we get to be rude without breaking the law. Being rude does not break the law. And we have to understand people. There are a lot of people in jail right now because somebody didn't like their attitudes. But the police are not here to police our attitudes. That's what parents are for. That's what psychologists and psychotherapists are for. That's what faith leaders are for. It's not what the police are for. It's not what the government is for. So let's do something. Let's talk to our children. Let's talk to each other. And if you don't have Black friends, it might seem weird for you to start making them, but make them anyway. There's a lot of things about the culture of Blackness and the experience of Blackness in this world that you just can't get from a distance. You have to hear the stories. You have to be immersed in the experience of Blackness, just like Black people and brown people are immersed irrevocably in the culture of whiteness. We can't get away from it. You all can't get away from us, but we cannot get away from you. So that will have to be an intentional move you make. And I'm grateful that you are here and that you're willing to listen to me talk to you. It's going to be a good day. We're going to have a better America. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Indivisible. I think it's good.
Man, thank you, Marquis. I knew that, yeah, you would be able to kind of, invite us to reflect on the past several weeks in a way that, I guess as a white person, I know I'm so aware of all the mistakes and all the things I don't know and I don't understand. And I'm grateful to you for, encouraging me to, that's okay to make the mistakes, but I got to keep trying, so anyway, thank you for being here. And Marquis, do you know Kelly? Let's invite Kelly. Where is Kelly? Does Kelly need to be unmuted? And
You're welcome, Kelly.
Do you work with Kelly?
No, she thanked me. I saw the note. I'm just saying you're welcome.
There we go. Can you unmute yourself now? Trying. There. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to end. I think we'll probably want to have Marquis back and kind of do these check-ins on how we're doing and the progress that we're making on a regular basis. If you wouldn't mind spending a little more time with us. Great. Okay, Kelly, it's all yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay,
great. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Marquis and Lori and Susan and everybody else. It's great to be here. One of the things that I'd like to start off by saying is that this work is ongoing. This is not something that we're going to just do and be done with. And Lori asked me to talk about us holding ourselves accountable for the work. And one of the things that I've had to do is I've had to step back just a minute at times just to catch my breath, because it's a lot, it's overwhelming, and it's very emotional work. So don't feel like this is something that you're going to go in and you're going to do every day for a month and then you're good to go. This is going to be something that's ongoing, that's going to require you to stop and reflect before you move forward with something else. So I'm just going to talk a couple of minutes about holding ourselves accountable. This movement is something that started, I think, this phase of the movement. It's been going on in phases since slavery, but this phase of the movement, I think, became really vibrant with the death of George Floyd. But there is no end in sight. This has to continue until we are all educated about systemic racism and the effects it has on all of us, not just on the African American community, but on all of us. And one of the things that I have done that I'm the proudest of is I have started reading, and I'm doing a book study on the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. It is an excellent, excellent resource as far as understanding systemic racism. My racism was to the point where I believed that people that were in jail because they were bad people or they had done something wrong and they deserved to be there. This book sheds a whole new light on mass incarceration and the effects of it throughout the African American community overwhelmingly. It talks not only about the penal system, about how African Americans are in jail, but it also talks about getting caught up in that whole system from the time that you may simply get pulled over for not using your turn signal, and how that ingrains you into a system where you have maybe lost your right to vote, you've lost access to housing, you've lost access to supplemental nutrition assistance, you've lost access to a whole lot of things that we all take for granted just by the fact that you were targeted because you were African American. So starting the book study, I think, was probably one of the best things that I've done, because it has really opened my eyes. And I think it's critical that we all take a look at ourselves. Not only white Americans, but as Black Americans, I think it's incumbent upon us to educate ourselves, because there's a lot that we don't know because we were not taught at school. So another simple thing that I challenge all of you to do is the children in your life, whether they're your children, grandchildren, nephews, neighbors, talk to their teachers and ask them, do you specifically teach Black history? Do you go beyond the history books? There are social studies companies in our school where I taught last year. The social studies company changed the term slavery to agricultural workers. And they did that because they were pressured and said that they would not renew the book contract. The book contracts would not be renewed if they kept the terms slavery in the book. So there's so much that goes on that we don't really know about. And the history of African Americans is so crucial to all of our understanding. A simple thing you can do is talk to the teachers in your children's lives and ask them about what kind of history they're taught, and make sure that they are being at least mindful and aware, and even stepping outside of the traditional book to use as a reference, and that our children are being taught as much history as possible. Like Marquis said, it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we teach our own children, but as taxpayers, we have a right to make sure that those textbooks accurately represent the history of African Americans. So those are just a couple of things that you can do, that we can all do. And like I said, this is ongoing work. It's very important. And the third and last thing I'd like to challenge you with is something that you can do as part of Indivisible. I talked to Lori, and we're starting a team on racial equity. We really want to make sure that we are holding ourselves accountable, that we have an arm of Indivisible that's able to help coordinate with protests, that's able to have guest speakers, that's able to do education of our members. We want to make sure that we continue this on. So here's my information on the screen. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I just saw the picture over there. Don't pay no attention to that masked woman. But I would love to get input on ideas on things that we can do as an organization to advance the cause, to make sure that we as an organization are inclusive and that we are educating and putting out accurate information about racism and the things that we can do. So if this is something that you're passionate about, please contact me. I will be getting with Lori, and we will be moving forward on some specific things that we can do to help promote racial equity within our Indivisible group. But we want to make sure that we do have a diverse and vibrant Black Lives Matter type outreach that takes care of educating ourselves and our members about racial equity. So those are some things that you can do. I'd also like to take a couple of minutes. I know there are some of you that have been purposely working on educating yourselves and reflecting and looking at what you have been doing. We're going to be taking a look at the question, what have you been doing differently to combat racism? Anything that you've watched or read? What kind of conversations have you had? Sometimes these conversations are not always easy. Like Marquis said in his remarks, some of you may not have a lot of African American friends or be close to some Black people, but that's important also to make sure that you understand our story. What conversations have you had? Are you patronizing Black-owned businesses and products? Have you been using your social media as a voice, making sure that you're getting out to vote? So at this time, I'd like to take just a few minutes. If anybody has anything they'd like to share, what have you been doing in the last few months since this new resurgence of the movement on racial equity that you might like to share with other members about things that you have done that maybe we can encourage each other to do. I know that I talked with Donna a little bit. Donna, would you take a minute, please, and share a little bit about what you were talking with me about?
Oh, absolutely. And I really appreciate Marquis and Kelly and Susan. I really appreciate y'all doing this today. I went to the rally on, I guess it was June the 6th that you were referring to about a month ago. And I took my pastor with me. She's a lady pastor, and I don't think she'd ever been to any kind of a rally before, but she and I have kind of gotten in cahoots. Immediately after that, we got together and got a program together for the West Little Rock Rotary Club, which a lot of those folks are, white folks, but Annie Langford's her name. She said it was fine for me to share with y'all. But Annie's on fire, and we got, first of all, we asked Anika Whitfield to speak, and I'm learning just like everybody else is. Anika, in her very kind and gentle way, said, Donna, thank you so much for asking me, but really, you need to have white people talk to you all about, we're kind of tired of educating y'all. So I learned a little bit about that. It's like, I've got to take some ownership here and educate myself. So Annie and I we got Denise Donnell. She had already talked to Denise and Solomon Birchfield from the Poor People's Campaign to talk to the folks that were on the Zoom call there. We're doing a book study. You can't see my screen, but it's How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, if I said his name correctly. And we're doing that in our church, partly because, I understand what you're saying about churches, Marquis. We need to speak out. We need to not be silent with our white friends. We need to step out and say, it's unacceptable to have racist attitudes and to have systemic racism like what we've had. So Annie and I are kind of in cahoots. Denise Donnell told us, you can't call yourself an ally. We have to call you an ally, and you have to earn that. And so we're working on being called allies and learning all that we can. A film that I watched that I thought was really, really eye-opening and excellent was 13th on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it just kind of blew me away. Anyway, we're doing some things like that. And then my Black friends, I have some beautiful, wonderful neighbors, and they all have sons. And of course, they've all been concerned about their sons, especially while this was going on. So I've just been trying to kind of learn from them, be present, just let them know that I'm, there, that I'm there for them and that I care about what they're going through. So that's some of the things that I've been doing and that I'm excited about learning some things about my fellow man and being a better ally.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Donna. Is there anybody else who'd like to share? And we're not looking for everything to be over the top. You've started a campaign and have been going door to door and doing, spending thousands and thousands of dollars. Just, we'd like to, encourage everyone to please share about some things that you might be doing on your own. Okay, we see from Haley, trying to follow Black scientists on Twitter. I never would have thought that. I think that's an excellent thing to do. Anybody else? These are our conversations. These are what we need to talk about. And I'm sure that most of you have done something, at least just to keep your awareness open. Anyone else want to reflect?
Teresa?
Hey, y'all.
Hi, Teresa.
Hey, thank you so much for having this. This is really rad. One thing I realized I hadn't been doing, even though I'd personally been reading books over the past few years and listening to podcasts and just learning more about all of this, is I hadn't been sharing it with other people. So I think that's been my thing lately is even just my mom. So it was really sweet. I told her, hey, I read this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And she picked it up and she started reading it. And now she's trying to pass that on to her best friend. They've been friends since like grade school. And they don't see eye to eye on this issue. So just seeing her being able to then tackle this with her best friend and just have the conversations. But then also sharing different perspectives on Instagram. So I know like I don't know if this applies to y'all, but with some of the albums that have been coming out, some of the music that's been coming out will reference certain activists, or like Strange Fruit comes up over and over and over. So then just kind of delving into the history and the meaning of that to get people to maybe look a little bit deeper on their own. The poetry, the lynchings, how it is a very recent history for us.
Great, thanks for sharing. Thank you. And please check the chat box too. I have seen some other suggestions and some other things that people are doing that I think are really worth mentioning and reading. I don't know if Lori wants to read those or if it's about time to wrap up. But thank you
Just
all
go ahead
for.
and get those off real quick, just to make sure every idea gets out there, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. Let's see. From Haley. On Twitter, try Find That Lizard. It's fun. And Afro, it went away. I can't see it anymore. Hang on, let me pull it back up. Afro Herper has been a great way to find other Black scientists. There are a lot of great videos out there and things that you can look at. Terry says she's read and posted on Facebook a powerful essay by Carolyn Randall Williams. You want to be a Confederate monument. My body is a Confederate monument. I read that. It was very powerful, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Terry. Oh, I love this one, following a National Black Doula site on Facebook to address the high mortality rates of pregnant women of color and sharing lists of Black-owned businesses. So there's lots of things that are going on that are wonderful. Please don't keep those to yourself. Please make sure that you're sharing those with your friends and family to encourage people to become active and to get involved and to take a look not only at what other people are doing, but what they themselves are doing. There's plenty that we can all do. And like I said, this is not a one and done. This is a continuing action and a continuing movement. So thanks for sharing those things. I'm going to go ahead and let Lori wrap it up. And again, if you're interested in pursuing more on the topic, please hit me up on my email. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you very much, Kelly. I have to say bye, Charles, if you're, or you just saying thank you. Do you want to say something real quick? Oh, you have to unmute real quick.
I think he's unmuted.
Okay, did I?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. Do you have any numbers of Latinos in your organization, percentage-wise, that get involved with Indivisible?
Oh, well, maybe we need to have a additional conversation in detail. I would love to do that about recruiting and making our organization more welcoming. We do a lot of work, of course, with Arkansas United.
All right.
And so we partner with them, and, you know, Rosa and Mireya call on us, and they know they can count on us. And we have young people who are involved in our organization who have helped us, or actually we've helped them, I guess, take on some activism, protests, and rallies on behalf of immigration supporting causes. So that's, yeah, showing up for our local immigrant community is one of our top priorities, absolutely.
All right.
But if you want to talk more, email me, Lori, L-O-R-I-E-E at Indivisible LRCA, or you can message us. And if we want to talk more about that, we are all ears, would love to.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So I am going to wrap us up. Oh, I just wanted to say real quick for Kelly. Kelly is also going to be working on this. This is our Black Lives Matter web page where you can go, for example, to get some of the resources. We're listening, we're learning. These are resources you can share to start conversations, radio, reading, and then things to take action on. So it's 3 kind of categories, and we're going to update it. This is, I think, the June information. I mean, the July information. So all the ideas that y'all are like suggesting in this chat box, those are exactly what we need to update for August. So I saved that list, Kelly, so we can pull from some of those ideas to update. Send us more, send them to Kelly, message us with them so that we can be sure to kind of make this a place where people can come back to.